So when we're talking about performance, we also need to think about performance of the mind. We need to think about mental performance. And I'm not talking about positive thinking. I think it's very difficult to do for most people who need it most. If you're in a state of emotional turmoil, and if you start saying to yourself, be happy, I should be happy, why am I not happy? Be happy, smile, big smile, etc. And you're in that state of emotional turmoil or high stress or high anxiety, it's not going to work. The undercurrent of emotion is too strong. And now if you start telling yourself to be happy, you're almost adding a criticism on. You're giving out about yourself. I'm not happy, but I want to be happy. I'm here, but I want to be there. So forget about positive thinking. And I'm not talking about think negatively either. So it's not about positive thinking. It's not about negative thinking. But more so, it's about understanding of thinking. It's about understanding the mind. For many years, my own personal life, my mind was very agitated. I was constantly stuck in my head. My concentration would have been impacted. I'd go for a walk in a beautiful park, I wouldn't see the park at all. I'd go for a walk in a lovely street, I wouldn't see the street, because I was so caught up in my mind. And how can you relate to life if all of your attention, or at least the vast majority of your attention, is stuck in your head? And too often as human beings, our attention is stuck in our head. And it's almost that we are asleep to life. So if our attention is stuck in our heads, and if we're just on that train of one thought after another, after another, after another, all of those distracting, repetitive, and incessant thoughts coming in, those thoughts are also going to serve as a distraction. Because how can you concentrate if the mind is continuously bombarded with thought? Because every time that you're holding your attention on something, a thought is coming in and it distracts you. And maybe you'll go off on that train of thought and then you realize it and you bring your attention back. What's concentration? Concentration is your ability to hold your attention on a subject matter for a period of time without distraction. And when I mean hold attention, I'm talking about holding 100% of your attention. No distraction. This is focus. This is concentration. Your attention is in the present moment and you are also in the zone. And for years, coaches have wondered, how can we get athletes into the zone? Getting into the zone is not automatically going to happen on the day of the race or the day of the game. Getting into the zone is a practice that we bring into our way of life. How do we train the brain? How do we train the brain that we can automatically bring our attention into the present moment? That our thought activity, the repetitive and incessant thoughts subside, and that we can connect fully with whatever we are doing, that we can have 100% of our attention on it without distraction. Training the brain, first focus on the breath. Focusing on your breathing is a tremendous way to train the brain. You bring your attention out of the mind onto your breath. You're feeling and you're merging with the breath as it comes into the body and the breath as it leaves the body. Your mind wanders off. Bring your attention back onto your breathing. Your mind wanders off. Bring your attention back onto your breathing. And with practice and with time, you'll find that your concentration will generally improve. But don't get frustrated with it and don't expect instant gratification. This is not about practicing focusing on your attention with the sole goal to improve your concentration. No. This is about simply taking your attention out of the mind onto your breathing to give your breathing some attention. And the more you do it, it's an amazing thing, practice, habit that you can incorporate into your everyday way of life. When you're walking down the street, don't have all of your attention stuck in your head. When you're with your family, don't be there with just all of your attention stuck in your head. Where is your attention now? Are you listening to me, or are you going off on a tangent daydreaming about something? And the more we pay attention to how our mind operates, and I'm not talking about a psychologist or a psychiatrist or somebody who's done a PhD thesis on the mind. I'm not talking about the theoretical function of the mind. I'm talking about the practical function. I'm talking about the mind as a filter through which all of our life's experiences are determined. Everything and every experience that we have in life, we filter it through this mind. And yet we never stand back and we ask, how does my mind operate? How do you know what way your mind operates unless you pay some attention to your thought activity? So make it a constant feature throughout the day to bring your attention onto your thinking, and just ask yourself the question, what am I thinking about at this moment? And ask also, is this thinking helpful? Is this thinking productive? There's a time that thinking becomes unhelpful. There's a time when thinking is unproductive. We have to be, events will always happen. Some events will happen. They happen once. Don't keep bringing them into your way of life. Don't keep on having and placing your attention there, if at all possible. So I'm coming back to it again full circle. What is focus? What is concentration? But your ability to hold your attention on a subject matter without distraction. If the mind is agitated, we cannot concentrate. If the mind is agitated, we cannot focus. So how do we improve our ability to focus? Number one is we start paying attention to our breathing. We're training the brain. Number two, improve your sleep. And I'm not just talking about the quantity of sleep. I'm talking about the quality of sleep. And I'm going to speak about that in one of these talks. How can we change our sleep patterns? That we have deeper sleep, that we wake up more alert. When you wake up more alert, the mind is calmer. If we wake up tired and lethargic and we're not productive, we can't concentrate, the mind is naturally going to be more active. And a third factor is looking at breathing patterns. If we're breathing fast and hard, the mind is more agitated. So when we're looking at the mind, we can't just look at the mind in terms of too often, and I'm just talking about the normal everyday person, which is quite a bit of thought activity. First of all, pay attention to your breathing. And if you find that your mind is wandering a lot, you know that you've got so much more to get out of this. Because if your mind is wandering a lot when you're focusing on your breath, your concentration is impacted. If you don't have the concentration to focus on your breathing, you don't have the concentration to focus on other subject matter. So use your practice of focusing on your breathing to determine your degree of concentration. And I'm not talking about a forced concentration, but I'm talking about a subtle observation and bringing your attention out of the mind and not thinking about the breath, but taking the attention out of the mind onto your breathing, merging with your breathing. Yes, the mind wanders, bring your attention back. The mind wanders, bring your attention back. And as I said, the mind is the filter through which all of life's experience are determined for you. Start paying attention to the mind.